I always enjoy these interviews that is the in the end of the year. We say 2023 and it's December. And either before or after, during the conversation, there's a lot of reflection from the guest. I already had a couple here in December and they will go live in January. And today is the same. Exactly from we started having our first conversation, Greg and I, we were talking a bit about how does the future of the industry looks from the parameters we have to work with today. What is the lifespan of a restaurant concept? So many, many interesting questions. Both are we going to hear about an incredible journey and also some of the pains and challenges that comes with that being an entrepreneur in hospitality, and especially here after the, the pandemic, the post-pandemic era. So welcome to the show, Greg. It's a great pleasure to have you here with all your wisdom and experience as a independent operator.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, independent restaurant. What a great life decision I made, right?
And you're still here. I think
I'm still
that's the
here.
main thing. More than 50 years. But for people, Greg, that hasn't seen you before or read about you and your incredible restaurant group and what you do both in London and Paris, could you give them a bit of an overview of your journey and where you come to today in the hospitality world?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I'm a chef. I started, I was 16. I come from a challenging background. I grew up in a child house being an orphan. So I could have been electrician, plumber. I mean, I needed to do something with my hand. I mean, obviously, they were not encouraging us to go into a very long and expensive study. So I chose the kitchen because I did a stage when I was 15. And I kind of liked the atmosphere, the brigade, and then so I enrolled into cooking school from 16 to 20. So I did 4 years of cooking school, and I decided to see the world. So I wanted to learn English. So what better place to go and learn English than Scotland? So I moved to Scotland. Yeah, to Peebles, south of Edinburgh. Stayed there for like almost a year, and then I moved back to London. I moved down to London, and then that was the start of my folding my suitcase for the best part of 10 years. Brought me to London, to Knightsbridge, the Mandarin Oriental, to the Savoy Grill, then to Hong Kong, to the Mandarin Oriental in Hong Kong, then back in London, then a little bit in Spain, in Marbella, for a couple of years. Went back to London to work for Soho House, Jamie Oliver, moved to New York, and then went back in September 2008 to open my own restaurant in the middle of the subprime crisis. Went back to Paris with my wife 7 months pregnant. No job, no money, no place to be. I mean, no flat. And yeah, I decided to open my own restaurant. What a great idea, right? That's the best timing ever. And then I did. So I opened Frenchie in the 1st of April 2009. On April's full day, believe it or not. Little 13 a hall, 24-seat restaurant in a little alley on a Regent Hill in the middle of the garment district in the second arrondissement of Paris. So right in the center, a little street where no one would have bet on it at the time. And then the street just became 72-meter long cobble street, became a foodie street in Paris, where I brought all my supplier in. So you have a butcher, you have a fishmonger, a bakery, a chocolate bean to bar maker, a coffee roast, a veg stall. So all this, and then my 3 restaurants and and my wine shop as well. So all this in this 72-meter street. So, but that's 15 years later. So I might have
That's
jumped
15 years
into,
later.
yeah.
And if people are watching the video, they will see there's a picture behind you. You told me in the beginning that's the street, the
Yeah, yeah,
beautiful
yeah,
pictures
yeah,
in the
yeah,
back.
yeah. It's funny actually. I mean, I can actually show this is the original. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
Mall Street.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
definitely, if you're in hospitality, it seems like a place you have to go and experience. It's the whole your principal created that on that journey and experience.
you need to go there if you're in Paris. It's really a beautiful little street that is, yeah, foodie street. We all work together as well. We know each other for a long time, and there's a great energy in this street. And you can go have your coffee, do your shopping, and then eat in a restaurant. Or so yeah, it's buzzing. It's really buzzing.
Is it like a community of people helping each other out, I guess, as well? Besides, you have street restaurant, but you also had suppliers went there.
I think we also have the same vision of our work. All the products are amazing. They're source, they're authentic, they're sustainable, and this is why it works so well. This little community. I mean, I live around the corner. My kids go to school. We really live in this little bubble in the heart of Paris. But you know, I guess it wasn't enough. I needed to see the world a little bit. That's why we opened London in
Yeah.
2016. So we have the restaurant in Original, was a Michelin star, 24 seats. It's the mother restaurant. Then across the street, we have the wine bar with like small plates, a lot of very loud music, high table, very buzzy, and great little plates. And then we had Frenchie to go, which was like our little street food counter inspired from my time in New York, especially in the Lower East Side with all the New York delis. London as well, Greasy Spoon, fish and chips, bacon sarnies,
Yeah.
and all that. So but we were doing everything in house. I had a smoker. I was smoking my own pastrami. I'm talking like we opened that in 2013. That was 10 years ago, and the street food in Paris wasn't a thing, and people like hardly ever heard about pastrami's or pulled pork sandwich, and we kind of like did that, and it was like wow, the street food revolution. But then as it goes, 10 years later, street food is the market in Paris is totally like saturated today, and the price for goods went up. So if we wanted to keep the same quality, we would have to sold our sandwich 20 euro, which was not really didn't make any sense with the concept itself. And I needed something else. And then financially, but with all this, it just became more complicated. So we've closed it after 10 years in June, and we are reopening with a new concept, which is going to be called l'Altro Frenchie, which is going to be a Italian inspired restaurant. But since through our own lentils, a little like New York, London, like like an Italian inspired cuisine that have traveled, because I think today Italian cuisine is traveling all over, and I think I want to do a lot of French product as well, and a little twist, a little touch, a little Frenchy touch as well. So that should open in March.
So we go to Covent Garden, London. What kind of concept is that we experience there? Frenchies. Is that a version of the mother restaurant?
So it's funny because when we grew up, we we actually I kind of lost track of who we were, and I couldn't make any decision whether it was to change the design of the menu. Actually, what triggered it is that we were in London, so we opened French in London in 2016, and I was in London, and I didn't like my menu, and I was like, I mean, not what was inside, but the presentation. I wanted to redo the whole artistic direction a little bit of all this, and then so we asked some company to do that for us, and then we briefed them, and then they just came back with some stuff, and I mean, we had a menu with like the French flag all around, like blue, white, red, blue, and then with like people with little beret, and I was like, oh my god, was I that bad at explaining who we were for them to come back with this? And I said, like, God, I need some help. I'm lost. And then we started to work on a brand book where we actually sat down with my wife, who was also my business partner. and my people, and then we just kind of like and then an agency who does all our graphic design now, and we started to write who we were, because it's so easy to get to lose yourself when you grow up organically, you see, with not really a plan in
Yeah.
your head. But you just say, oh, I have an opportunity. Okay, well, let's do this. Yeah, let's do this. Yeah, wow, that's great. And then all of a sudden you're like, who am I? What the hell am I doing? So that's what we did. And to come back to your question, what is French Common Garden? So to to humanize a little bit all this, we did Frenchie is a mother, the wine bar is the uncle, and then so we give them each a personality, like on a family tree. Okay, and the Frenchie Common Garden is a daughter who would just travel across the channel and to express herself with her own sensibility, still into the maternal environment, but with her own view of someone who has traveled, very smart, very chic, very elegant. So I would describe it as a Parisian neo-brasserie. That's what French
Yeah.
Covent Garden is.
If we go a bit back, Greg, and you said like you came back in 2008, the subprime crisis was hitting all over the world. What was it that made you decide that not going, I guess you worked some from incredible people, you can get a job. What was like the tipping point at that point? Because like you just got a child as well, or you were expecting child,
Yeah,
7
I
months
think,
pregnant.
yeah.
Uh, so it's just like the huge things already happening and financial some responsibility. But what's that made you think this is what I need to go and do? Because as you say, you never know if that's actually gonna work or not. But you knew that was the thing you needed to go and do.
I Since I started training, I've always had on the back of my head this idea of opening one day my own restaurant. And I see my 10 years of like 10 years plus of traveling a little bit like a crusade. It's funny, but I mean, it's funny. It's not funny, but it definitely something that I left France. I didn't have any parents. I didn't have much family. I never thought I would come back to France. I was the perfect expat. I was very happy to live abroad. I loved London. I spent almost all my 20 years there. So, and I love traveling. I love New York. But the day I came back to France, so I went to Paris. I went back with, my family of my own. My kids was about to be born. I had I mean, she wasn't my wife at the time, but no, she is. But I had the mother of my child and my future wife with me. And I think I was like, okay, no, it's my time. I think I need to do something of my own. I've what would I do now anyway? Work for someone else? And no, I wanted to have my own liberty, my own. I want to do my own thing, and I think this is big inspiration for me to be free to do my own thing. I was ready. I was been working in industry for 14 years at the time, and yeah, I was ready to go for it. So I guess this was my motto. This was my
The motivation actually, because you needed to make it a success as well. Yeah.
yeah. And I think indirectly, like I mean, obviously, my son actually was born while in December 2008, and we opened in April 2009. So we were in the middle of building work when he was born. So yeah, I think it was probably a new beginning, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. So you build a restaurant group across borders. You're both in Paris and London. You've been through like anyone else as a group as well. Some challenging time with the pandemic. Here in the UK, we also have a Brexit factor. You've probably also seen in your business. So how do you actually see the industry in light of all these? There's more global events, there's more black swans, and probably more to come in the years. But it feels like suddenly we gone from it's always been hard in the restaurant industry. There's always been difficult to we talked a bit about before the interview about margins, how you attain them and how you actually build that business that gives you the plus 10%. But how do you see the whole restaurant space in the light of everything that's happening? And I think talked with lots of operators the last couple of months where you can feel like that it's like this mental overload almost of events and things they need to deal with they never had to deal with before.
Yeah, I mean, I think COVID was a tsunami, followed by few other waves of, obviously, I mean, before that it was a Brexit, and then the COVID, then the Ukraine war with the rise of goods. And but yeah, I mean, our industry has been changing, and sometimes I'm asking myself, like, what the hell? When you just put, especially at the moment in the year, we're in December, it's time of just go forward, and then just, well, like 1.5 more weeks to go. You have time when you just need to put your head down, and then time for building and developing and reflecting. Today, we're not in a reflecting phase, we're in a to do phase. And I think often I said to my guys, like, and they're like, yeah, but chef, we should do this. I'm like, no, for the next 2 months, we're like, just focus on what we do. I always say that when we do an opening or where we do, and then there's time when we have more time for ourselves to think. But you need to be able to recognize this time and deal with it. Otherwise, it drives you crazy. Yeah, I think staffing is a huge problem, but we all know it. Uh, Today, I think we're not in the UK anywhere. We're not helped much. I believe, because the visa situation is very hard to get visas. They didn't simplify it, and for us, it's hard to find skilled worker uh, uh, through the UK who can do, who have the knowledge and the skills to do what we do. And because I think, even though it's getting better, but like, unlike France, where it's really part of a culture, and we have great cooking school, we have a great academic school of cooking, and for waiters and for sommeliers, so we can fill this position. And but in the UK, we don't have that, and so we end up with position to fill, but no one can fill them. I mean, or very little people can fill them. And this is really problematic. This is really problematic for us today, to keep the same standard of service as we used to before COVID, when we had a huge European workforce in our industry. So that's a big challenge. I think another big challenge has been for us as an independent restaurant group, has been to overcome COVID financially, because we didn't have any money to inject. I think a lot of restaurants with big investment group, they were living on perfusion, where I can, and it was like, okay, let's just pray for better time. But we didn't. So it has been quite challenging to keep afloat, and to be able to pay HMRCs, of VAT, and all this. So yeah, we've had big difficulties with cash flow. I think, like a lot of restaurants. But we're slightly overcoming this now. I think business is starting to look much better. I'm talking about London anyway, but we need to reinvent ourselves. So we're in the middle, even more than in the middle, but we're really reflecting on what can be Frenchie Covent Garden 2.0, because it's been 7 years. I think it's a cycle. We opened in 2016, so 7 years is a time to reflect. What's the lifespan of a restaurant in today's time? And this is a reflection we ask ourselves all the time, because we have three core values that came out of this reflection, general reflection we did on our group. And one of them is authenticity. So authenticity through the sourcing of products, through the hospitality, through the decor, through being who we are. Fun dining is another one. So fun dining, it speaks for itself, is being serious without taking ourselves too seriously. And the other one is modernity. So you see, you have authenticity on one side, and then modernity on the other. And I think modernity is our capacity to adapt to the time we're living. I started, my first restaurant 15 years ago. I mean, if I was still doing what I was doing 15 years ago, I would probably, wouldn't probably be here talking to you, Michael. And I think
Mm.
it's important, and we call it an evolution, not a revolution, but it's important every now and again. And usually, you need to do it when the restaurant works well, which is always hard to convince your team and your people to say like, yeah, this is going great, right? Let's change it. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, usually that's what we do. It's usually when you walk into your restaurant and then you look a little bit everywhere, and then everywhere you look, you're like, God, I just cannot bear this restaurant anymore. I need to change it. And it usually happens after you open a brand new one. Because I know, for example, I'm opening L'Altro Frenchie in March, and I know that when I will be working in this restaurant, I'll be look everything brand new, um, the old concept and the idea behind the restaurant, which is a reflection of myself now, not 10 years ago when I opened the other restaurant.
Yeah.
So I know it's going to cost me a lot of money because I'm going to have to change another restaurant, so it's a never ending kind of. So we're already reflecting on our mothership on Frenchie as a Michelin star restaurant in Paris. We've already changed it in 2000. So we opened in 2009. We changed it in 2014. Well, COVID came, but we're already starting to think about what's next because, yeah, because I think it's, we came to a point where the infrastructure of the restaurant as it is doesn't allow us to do any more than we do now. So yeah,
Mm.
it's keeping a certain modernity and adaptation so you can keep relevant on the market. There's a lot of great restaurant opening all the time with great concept, with very talented teams, talented chefs, talented waiter, talented sons. You don't want to become the old guys. You don't want to see your your customer base getting old as you are. You need to have a different vision, and you need to rethink your business. You need to also, because you're getting old yourself, you need to trust the people you're working with. Usually there's always a little age gap as well. So it's surrounding yourself with great young professionals that keep you grounded to what the industry is at that time.
That's a cool question that came up. One of them was like you started out with talking about the challenges and the need for change in your own business. Do you feel when you talk about this lifespan that it's getting shorter, the lifespan? Because I know of restaurant owners that has their business for plus 20 years, some of them plus 10 years. And you, as you say, it works. The concept really works. Why would you change a winning thing? But do you think like the pressures that is on the systemic issues around staffing, prices on food, as somebody said to me, I don't believe they really gonna drop. They will just significantly increase because if you want good produce and authentic produce, then you will have to pay for it
Yeah.
and you will have to adapt your model so the end customer doesn't get, as you talked about before when you closed the street food concept, the prices just go unreasonably up. So there's disparity with the experience and what you're getting for your money.
Yeah, I think today you need to the customer expectation with inflation is for prices to go down. But unfortunately, on the restaurant business side, we have labor costs going up, and it's going up in April. You
Yeah,
have the cost of goods going up as well. uh, Energy, I mean, everything. So
yeah,
it just doesn't really match. How yeah. So you need to think a little bit differently, use different product, be smart with the use of your product. And I think we even rethinking the way we doing the service in a restaurant. I mean, that's a reflection we're having right now, specifically, I think, for specialty job such as barman or sommelier. I mean, I think today you need uh, we're reflecting on simplifying our offer of behind the bar and behind and in the cellar. so you can train waiters to do it, which is as well a great thing. And it's very valuable when you look for people, for them to know that you will also train them to know a lot more about wine and about cocktails. So I think you need to take care of what really matters. Is today in central London, in Covent Garden, having 300 plus reference of wine is really going to make a difference for a customer if you have 80, but on this 80s, you will have a great help understanding this 80s rather than like being lost with 300. So I think there's a big reflection around that as well.
Yeah.
Uh, uh,
So simplifying in principle concepts, but to be able to deliver the high end, the fun high end experience you want
yeah,
to create.
exactly. Exactly.
I think there was a couple of questions in there. So actually, the first one was around the external forces that actually, like Brexit, pandemic, that force you to do some changes now in your model. But I think the other question that lies in that, I would be really interested here. So you talked about as you evolve as the founder, the co-owner of the business, what kind of impact is this think having as well on the business that you also want to see change as you evolve and get experience? Is that also something that besides there's some external factors, there's also something you want to achieve? Like you have a vision for the future.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't want the same thing when I was 30 than now I'm 45. Obviously, your vision of hospitality changes, it evolves, and that's fine. But yeah, sometimes you just want something different, and sometimes you just want to change. I mean, maybe I go towards. I find it hard not to work with ingredient I'm not happy with. We've been actually in Paris. We've been just outside of Paris, 40 kilometers outside. We are founding partner of organic farm where we get all our vegetables from. I think all this vision of a more sustainable ecosystem in my industry is becoming more and more important. Having my kids growing up and we've
Mm,
always been very close to this with all the shop I was saying in original here on the little thing here.
yeah,
And so sourcing, as I said, authenticity. I think, and I talk about values, but I didn't talk about our why. And I think I feel that my started with the why, the famous why of why do you wake up in the morning? What makes you do what you do? Every day. What's the finality of what we do? I mean, Apple, for example, is challenging the status quo. Before making computer or phones, they want to challenge the status quo, and that's our why. That's their why, and ours. That's just to explain a bit what people who don't know. Actually, there's a great book from Simon Sinek called "Start with a Why," which I
yeah,
strongly recommend. There's even a little TED talk about 20 minutes. Simon Sinek TED
yeah,
talk. Have a look; it's very inspiring. And our why is creating emotions through genuine hospitality. So this is the finality of what we do, and I think this is the finality of why people want to go to the restaurant and spend their hard-earned money. Why?
yeah,
This is for me what I want. I want emotions. Emotions through, of course, I'm a chef, so the food is a very big part of it, but not only. We have a lot of tools today as restaurateur to create emotion. We say it's through the genuine hospitality, genuine product, genuine people as well serving you. Not this like robotic, I want when I'm being served, I want to be able to say like, you know what, this waitress or this waiter could actually be my mate. I'd actually like to go and have a pint with them later. And this is kind of
yeah,
the genuine part I'm talking about. There's a music selection, the lighting, the choice of the architect and the decor. So I think all these tools we have today to create emotion to the guest. So yeah, this is our why. And I don't think this is going to change much, to be honest. But the way to get there will
yeah,
change. Today, if I want to park my car, I need to put the music down just to concentrate. So, no, a very loud restaurant for me before it was great. No, it's just kind of like something I want a little bit more. So there's little things like this that you need to tweak and evolve to be true to yourself. Um, so I mean, the music is not the only one, but I think I talked about the sourcing of the
Yeah.
ingredient. I think about the and I think the human relation as well is something very important for us at Frenchie. And so this yes, authenticity. I think this is something I we feel very strong about. And then yeah, I mean today you have restaurant opening. I can see some restaurant opening like I did 15 years ago, and they're doing great, and there's a great energy, and they're like 25, 30 years old, and then they open with not much, and then I walk into this restaurant, and I always have a great time, and then I look around, and I'm like, all right, I see exactly what's going to happen for you. Your kitchen is gonna fall apart in about 6 months. Your staff, you're gonna have a big turnover, and all these like growing pains that you can have, and having
Yeah.
one restaurant, and then having two, and then having two in the same street, three in the same street, which really wasn't too complicated. It kind of drew me a little bit of the kitchen, but then we opened London, so yeah, I was in the middle of a big vortex of craziness. I was micromanaging. I was lost, and so I took the help of a coach, leadership coach, who really helped me, took some height, and then we carried on. We opened a few more restaurants. I don't know, we have like 7 restaurants, and no, so I came out of the kitchen. I'm more the artistic.
Mm.
I give the direct artistic direction, but right now I'm learning to get out of the operational work more, and to really work on a vision. So I'm at another
Mm.
growing crisis, and it's very hard. You have this huge feeling of culpability because you you're not here with the boys anymore. Like you don't you don't get the jersey like dirty and sweaty. You're just kind of like, like, yeah, pulling strings. So coming from someone who started cooking at 16 years old, it's a huge change in everyday's life, because your day is not, before it was okay, you come to work, you go, you put your weights on, you're gonna spend anywhere between 8 and 14 hours in the kitchen, and then you go home, and then you have a drink, and then you go to bed, and then you wake up, and all of a sudden you're there, and you're like, oh my God, but what's my bloody purpose? What am I doing here? And
Yeah.
then little by little you realize what's your added value. It's you've kind of the locomotive, the first train pulls all the wagons, and through a vision and inspiration. But this is very, very, very tough, and this is very painful crisis, and it always takes a lot of time to overcome this, and to understand your role. So yeah, and we're kind of in a growing crisis now, and so I can feel it as well. When you it's like if you are in the front of a huge drop,
Yeah.
and then you have a parachute, so you can jump, but you still have to jump, and then you need to trust your parachute as well. So it's all about trusting, delegating, finding your own place. I can talk quite easily about this, but I think we should do like group session with entrepreneur like this, and talk about this, because I talk sometimes to some friends who, and we realize we all live exactly the same moment, and it's so nice to be able to share them with someone who can understand exactly what you feel inside. But I guess this is the entrepreneur's daily work as well. You can feel
Yeah. And
you can
and
feel very
dilemma.
lonely. you can
Yeah.
feel very lonely also. And yeah, and it definitely takes you out of your comfort zone. I never thought I would have that many people, that many restaurant, that many
Mm.
thing either. And so it's you're never ready for this. And yeah, that's where we are.
Thank you for sharing that, Craig. Because as you were talking, I was also thinking about my own experience where you have to do these transition, and I often call them that you need to learn a lot of new stuff and a new way of behaving, and then you have to say goodbye to the old stuff. And
Mm.
it's almost the old stuff, as you were talking about. You're not there anymore. You're not putting on the whites. You're not there sweating. I can remember I had that transition as well, where no, it's actually not me now that has to jump in. It's the person I've decided that is the better version to do that,
Yeah,
because that's what you do. You put somebody that you believe is better than yourself to do
yeah,
that. And it's like so much conflict because that's what you've been good at. That's lots of the success comes from that as growing. But
yeah,
you can't get to number 8. You can't come to get to number 10 if you don't do something new. And it's really, really like really where it hurts. But what has been like on that journey? Because that's a real, it's like, as you say, it's not something you flick a switch and then that's over. It's a transition and you're probably going through it. I can hear still. And then you'll meet the next thing where it happens again. It's this transition. But what has been like your learning going through these transition from you started out almost being told in the kitchen what to do. Then you gave orders. Then you suddenly become a business owner where suddenly there's all these jobs you need to do, especially in a restaurant. You don't have a huge team from day
hmm
one and then you build it slowly. But what's like been one of your biggest learnings on that journey? Is in like philosophic learning there that you would like to share?
I believe this is a real quality I have is being able to look at yourself and say there's something wrong here, and it might not be them the problem, but it's actually me. That's hard.
Mm,
And that's hard to say
yeah.
like, God, I'm the problem. So if I don't change the way I do things, it's never gonna work. I can say it's your fault, and then fire, and then rehire, and then, but the same story is going to happen again and again until you are able to change yourself. And I think this is this remise en question, this own questioning on yourself. You need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, no, it's me, and it's hard. But yeah, you need to put ego on the side. I think it's very important. Yeah. And I often talk to my teams about this. I'm not fucking perfect ever. I make mistake, and but let's talk about it. I think you need to keep the because as well, you often find that you want the same thing that your people want.
Mm.
This is what's crazy about it. I was talking to one of myself, and he was like, "Yeah, but Church, you need to trust me. Just give me a project, and then I'll do it. And then if I do something wrong, you tell me and you direct me." And I looked at him. I'm like, "That's what I want too." So we looked at each other. I'm like, "Okay, all right. So I need to trust you a little bit more. Okay, fine. I'll try that." But it's funny because at the end, I think the most important is really to be able to communicate. The communication is really key here. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I was also thinking as you were talking before, like that is the ability to look in the mirror instead of out of the window. There's a great guy called Jim Collins who wrote a book called Good to Great, and he talks about there's different levels of leadership, and one of the highest is that we all have egos we need to put aside and actually be able
Mm,
to look in the mirror when something doesn't work in your business or your
mm,
team. It
mm,
actually, in the end, trickles down to you, something you're missing
mm,
out
mm,
on or
mm, mm.
not seen or something you are not doing. And it's often internally you have to shift something. And if that's like one of the hardest traits as a leader, really, because ego is the enemy. It's the, we all have it. We all have a
Yeah.
very strong ego to manage.
Mm. I think when something is going wrong, the first question you need to ask yourself is what have I done, rather than like, oh, you did shit,
Yeah,
or no, it's like, well, at the end of the day, it's always the man on top who's responsible, right? No matter what. So
yeah,
yeah, that's something you really need to think about. And sometimes it hurts. You're like, yeah, I'm a piece of shit. I, s- I didn't do that right. But then yeah, you take it, and then it doesn't
take
feel,
responsibility, yeah.
yeah, but it doesn't feel nice, to be honest. But I guess this is the growing
No,
pains of learning and of getting better. Because as I said, the top of the mountain is always the bottom of the other one. So every
yeah,
steps of the way, you keep learning. And I started from, very low, so it's been especially difficult for me. And I think one of my qualities is intuition, but at one point intuition is not enough. So
yeah. But I love the thoughts about as well that sometimes we have to look back at what we actually have achieved in the moment as well. It's not
mm,
saying we don't shoot, okay, but that's fine, but we need to move on. The future is there. We need to, but actually also
mm,
acknowledge to help ourselves to actually feel good about ourselves and what we done and get the confidence that actually we can climb the next mountain because we already climbed all those mountains. So the next one we're even
yeah.
better equipped to. And I think we forget that in the pressure and the heat of things and
Mm.
the all the things to do.
That's usually my wife who reminds me of all of that and keeps me grounded. And
Yeah,
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 we're a good team on this. I think she's very supportive. She's very smart, and uh, she has a way to make me feel, better about myself. Um, and it's good because it's really helpful when you're like rock bottom. You don't know, you don't know how to do. You don't have the solution. It's terrible not to have a problem and not to have the solution straight away. Me, it drives me crazy. This period of a problem arise, then you analyze it, right? This is like, help. And then the moment you have a solution, sometimes it can be fast, sometimes it can take time, but this moment where you feel very insecure, like, I don't have the solution. I should have the solution. Yeah, this is always this, and then you come up with a plan, okay, and then you start setting up the things, and then hopefully it works, and usually does, or if it doesn't, you find another one. But yeah, it's this uncertainty. I think uncertainty as an entrepreneur is, for me anyway, is something very, it's very stressful moment.
couple more question, Greg, because we need to wrap up soon. Unfortunately, there's so much great stuff here. But what question would you have liked I've asked you? I didn't ask you, and what would you have answered?
What do you want for Christmas? No, that's you
That's a
asking me the
really good
question.
question. So what do you want for Christmas, Greg? Less uncertainty.
Less uncertainty, self-confidence,
Yeah,
and a happy
big
life.
wishes we are
And
coming
a
up.
happy life. That's what I want. That's
Yeah,
all. Being happy. Because at the end, there's a journey was important, and sometimes we tend to forget that. But I feel sometimes I'm going through this journey a little bit too stressed, where I should just enjoy the journey, because you never arrive anywhere anyway. There's always another point, another destination. Yeah, that's what I want.
and I don't think you're alone on that journey.
No.
I think, including myself, we're all looking for that point. But then I think that's also the whole purpose of why you're doing what you're doing. Sometimes I say to myself that actually the obstacles, the pains has to be there. But again, older you get, you're looking for that ability to get into the silence of enjoying the moment. And I think actually that's with our similar age and journeys, there's like this time now where actually we want also to enjoy a bit of the wisdom we have
Yeah,
achieved. And I think it will
exactly.
come. It comes automatically. I talked with a guy who was my mentor. He is approaching 80, still very strong. Really, really, if I could be like that when I'm 80, that's like my goal. And he said it's about this part of time where you actually get all these frustration is actually about where you need to learn to enjoy the journey. You actually done a lot of the
Mm.
work. from a technical, but now I believe wisdom becomes more important.
Mm,
And it's about you bringing the next generation up. It's about you
mm,
actually thinking very differently about your role, but it's very painful, they said. And there's going to be one or two more shifts of those in life as well, whereas you become grandparent, he talks about, and you
yeah,
suddenly find out the society doesn't need you anymore. That's like that's a very unpleasant
it
kind of
must
thing to
be.
get to, but that's not
Yeah,
where we are now. But that's really an interesting point where we all go through decade by decade through this transition, and they really impact our ability in business and what our role going to be.
mm,
And it's not like just a playbook you can follow. You need
it's
to
true.
have yourself with you on the journey and your why, as you talked about
Mm.
earlier.
And you know, it's even more frustrating because before COVID, I could almost see the end of the light at the end of the tunnel. And the COVID really like just pulled me really back into it and
Yeah,
had to review the whole model. So it's been incredibly frustrating as well. I mean, for many people, I think it just happened at the worst time for us because we were built up to grow, and then it just came and just like cut
yeah,
cut yeah cut us in the middle of we were on the golden wave, and then it just came at the worst time for us. But we're
yeah,
fighter. We're fighting back, and things are starting to look great again.
yeah.
So I haven't lost, you know,
Hey,
test, which I could have love test. The test of
yeah,
doing what we do, and the test of food, and the test of everything. Really, this is what my wife said just after COVID. It's like you lost your test, and I actually did because after COVID, and it was quite funny the way she said it. It was like, "You love the test," and I'm like, "Yeah, but not just the test. I lost the envy, you know." Um,
mhm.
but I came back, so here we go.
Well, what a great place to end the conversation. Where can people connect with you, Greg, if they want to find out more about you online? Maybe they have questions. Is there any great places to reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. They can check on the Instagram, on Messenger of Instagram. They can, yeah. I mean, what would you suggest, Michael?
I have a couple of the links. We'll of course drop them in the show notes for people to find your different profiles, websites,
Mm.
the book recommendation on Simon Sinek, the TED Talk video I made a note on about as well. So we help you on that. But thank you, Greg, for sharing your experience. Very humble that you want to share that with the audience. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that feel the same or really also are reflecting right now. So thank you for that. And I send you and the team power and energy to get through the rest of December and get a roaring 2024.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you, and it was great talking to you for these hours. You know, it's much cheaper than psychoanalysis. So thank you so much. You just saved me a good 100 quid here.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.